Your court sits in Mexico City?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that you told me about when we spoke privately is the amount of time that your sit actually in session. It's,
yes, yes.
Could you tell us about it? It's pretty long.
Yes,
very
it is.
Impressive.
It's 3 times a week en banc,
Right.
11 justices working. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 11 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
Okay, and then we work on chambers. They are integrated by 5 justices each, and we work on Wednesday from 9 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon in chamber.
And those you decide other cases there or lesser cases?
Yes, yes.
How do you decide what cases you hear and which ones you decide in?
It is by law.
It is by law.
Yeah, there are rules.
Okay.
That put each case in. All depends on the importance of the case.
Right. Do lawyers like Sal, do they appear before you and argue cases?
Well, that's another difference with your court. In Mexico, we have private audiences with the parts, which is here incredible. Yes, yes. You see, so our public sessions are to discuss and decide the cases only.
Right.
But any lawyer, any interest part, can ask for an audience with a justice.
And so Sal could come to you and say, Judge, I need a little help here. And what do you tell him, Sal, what kind of crazy case you bringing? Do you do things like that or no?
In my case, they would say, what a crazy case.
That's interesting.
Yes, it is. It's completely different.
And does that, you find that facilitates resolution of the cases?
In certain cases, my personal opinion is that we have to go to a system like yours, where the audiences should be public and with both parts together. Okay,
right.
But nowadays not like that.
Well, but it's worked for a long time. It's worked for a pretty long time for you.
Of course.
Now, does the court, and the U.S. Supreme Court always stays in Washington as well, but in some of the states where we have each state has a Supreme Court, they'll hold sessions in different parts of the states every now and then. Like in Illinois, they might do Chicago. The principal headquarters for the court is in Springfield, Illinois, but there's talk of them going downstate to Illinois to hear a case, just to show the people that the court is engaged in their business. Does your court ever do that, go around to the country?
But there is the idea to do so. But till now, we haven't done it.
Yeah. Now, how does your Chief Justice become the Chief Justice?
We elected him for 4 years term.
The 11 of you do?
The 11 justices elected.
Okay, and that's different than us because here the United States, our president who does that appointment, and the same in Canada, the Prime Minister makes that appointment.
That's right.
Okay. Has your court dealt, in Chicago for a long time, there's been a lot of talk about the NAFTA agreement. Has your court had to deal with that at all in any way?
Yes, we have had several cases.
Okay.
Claims about NAFTA rules. Yes.
About NAFTA rules.
Yes, that's right.
And do you ever compare? Does your court ever reach out to the U.S. courts for advice about how the U.S. would process a case or anything like that?
No, never.
So do you ever have to decide cases under U.S. law?
No, because we have to solve it on the Mexican laws.
Okay.
That's one good example of how our systems work different, but are very linked. So we have to exchange experiences to know this.
Sure. The courts here in the U.S. will also, especially our Supreme Court, during these oral presentations, they get very aggressive with the lawyers and challenging them on their.
Seen that, yes.
Yeah. Does your court have a mechanism for doing that? No.
No.
Other than these meetings that maybe
just in a very specific cases we have done that. For example, we had a case, a very well-known case, about not penalized abortion during the first 12 weeks.
Okay.
So we called for public audiences to listen to the arguments of the 2 principal parts, the ones that were pro-choice, the ones that were against. 2 days of audiences, we received about 35 persons, specialists, lawyers, doctors, that wanted to tell them their opinion about it.
Right.
So we listened to them, and then we decided. But it was really an exception.
Okay.
It's not the rule.
Okay. How many years left do you have on your term?
10 and a bit.
10 and a bit. Do you have any specific goals that you'd like? Are there things that you'd like to achieve or implement during your term?
Well, first of all, I want to be a very good justice.
Right.
Okay, really. Secondly, I want to work with my colleagues in trying to make the court, a main reference for our stability, confiability, honorability in Mexico.
Right, right. I would think that is there a system in place so that when there are new justices brought in, it's an orderly transition out so that...
Yes, it is renewing all the time.
Right.
Because it's a sequence, you know. We weren't elected at the same time, all the justices.
Right, okay.
So it is renewed every 3 years, every 5 years, every 7 years.
Okay. Now, you have a strong academic background, I know. Do you still go out into the schools in Mexico to teach a bit?
Yes, I teach a bit. I'm not a regular teacher anymore. I'm not teaching regularly, but I still go to my school, the Free School of Law. It's a little school of law in Mexico, very well known.
Right.
And I give a certain kind of courses, very short term courses, 4 or 5 days, and that's it.
Right, right. There's such a in our city of Chicago, there's such a big community of Latino and so many people from Mexico, and it's some of the hardest working people, as you know. Did you get a chance while you're here to visit with any of the public, or only just the lawyers?
Well, basically lawyers and students.
And students, okay.
And students.
Okay. Well, next time you come, I'm going to make sure Sal sets it up so that we could have a community. You meet the people of the community. I'm sure there'd be many people here who would be so proud to meet you.
Yes.
Well,
we built an agenda for him that was built actually around trying to get the most people to get to know him as we could. So we had the open forum for students, and we had we have, of course, the public event with the Chicago Bar.
Right.
And he'll have an opportunity to meet more people later on today. He's been so generous with his time.
Yeah, you've been busy. I know that you've been nonstop.
Yes.
They've been running you around. Well, listen, we bring you here, we're going to work you, you know.
That's right.
Of course.
But we'll bring him back.
And I'll be delighted to
Yeah. You were, I know that you have visited with at least one member of our Supreme Court. In your career, have you gone around to the different states in the U.S. at all, or?
Just
as a tourist, not as
that's right.
not in your official capacity.
No, just touring.
Yeah, how would you promote? Because I think it'd be a very important thing for us to do. To promote a free exchange of ideas between the two justice systems. I know you have some ideas about that.
Yes, I have been putting forward this idea. I have talked with Mr. Cicero and judges and lawyers to try to make a program, a regular program of exchanging experiences. You know, judge from here going to Mexico, judge from Mexico coming to the United States,
right,
and learn about our legal systems. You know. Yeah. Of course, students, okay?
Right.
Mainly students of law, but maybe we have to think in another fields.
Sure,
Could help in this way. So yes, I really want to do so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll certainly help facilitate you doing that. We'll work with Mr. Cicero and his colleagues.
I appreciate it.
We would like to do that. I know you've already been kind enough to extend an invite to come to Mexico City. I'd love to do that. It's such a heritage there.
I ratify the invitation.
Yes, well, very good. Thank you, Judge. That's very kind of you. You know, and during your time on the bench, and you work with your colleagues, have you implemented, I know you have procedural specialties yourself. Am I right about that? You told me that when you lecture, you talk about process and the technical side of things. How does that translate into the decisions? Do your colleagues look to you for advice on any particular topics?
Not really.
No?
Not really.
Okay.
Each of us prepare our projects of resolution, you know, and they are put forward to the other 10 justices. Yeah. So they study them, and then we discuss them, and we make questions there at the public session.
What's the most complicated case that you've ever decided?
Well, of course, it was just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah?
We have to deal with some constitutional reforms at the state level, where they decided to establish at the Constitution that life is protected from the moment of conception to the natural death. So there were some claims that it was unconstitutional.
Okay.
And we dealt with that. I was the justice in charge of the project, you know. And in these cases, what we call constitutional actions, you need 8 out of 11 votes to declare void or unconstitutional this rule.
So it's like a supermajority.
A supermajority, that's right. So we were 7 only that thought it was unconstitutional. So it stands.
Now, was that debate aired publicly?
Publicly, completely publicly, yes. We debated that complex, very complex
so the
aspect.
People know who was for and who was against.
Yeah,
and,
and what were the reasons why each of us were in one position.
Right.
Yes, publicly.
And
on TV.
Yeah, I know. And does it ever happen then when you're out having dinner with your wife and family that somebody comes up and says, "Hey, Judge, I like what you did there"?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Yes, part of our job.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, goodness. You know, I think during your visit here, you visited with Justice Ann Burke.
That's right.
And she has been a wonderful leader for us in rejuvenating our court's historical society. And in our Supreme Court building in Springfield, the headquarters one, we have these beautiful, beautiful paintings in the courthouse. And I had heard a rumor, and you confirmed it for me, that your courthouse in Mexico City has very similar beautiful paintings and murals throughout the courthouse. You were kind enough to share those with us and for us to see some of these. And could you tell us a little bit so that for people who want to, if they're going to visit Mexico City and they want to visit your court, it's open to the public, is that right?
Yes.
And so the public could go and see many of these things. Could you tell us a little bit about the history, Judge?
This first mural that you are showing, it's made by Orozco. Orozco was one of our main muralists after the revolution. It was painted on about 1946. Then, in fact, there is an American that painted a mural. This mural here was painted by George Biddle.
Okay.
So this was painted after the 50s. And then the court decided to reinforce our muralism tradition, you know, and made a contest amongst the main painters, Mexican painters.
Right.
And 4 of them won.
Right.
And they painted these murals, you know, in the staircases of the
courthouse.
So they are 3 stories high.
Well, we're going to have to go see those.
So they are beautiful ones.
Well, Judge, thank you for sharing that with us. This time flies too quickly when we do these programs.
I know,
but
sir.
Thank you for that in particular.
No, thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Cicero, thank you, sir. So Justice Franco and Salvador Cicero, thank you so much for sharing your insights about the Mexican legal system and about the courthouse. I'm Bob Clifford. Thank you for watching the Chicago Bar Association's Justice and Law Weekly.
Closed captioning for Justice and Law Weekly is provided in part by the Clifford Law Offices in support of quality public television for the Chicago area.